Okay, this is the commentary on Emerald Tablet 2, The Halls of Amenti. I touched on some of this a little bit last night, or, well, I think by the time the recording hits, it'll be last week, but I recorded the first one last night. So, uh, deep in Earth's heart lie the halls of Amenti, far beneath the islands of sunken Atlantis. Halls of the dead and halls of the living, bathed in the fire of the infinite all. Now, we can all speculate on what the infinite all is. At this point, I think there's so many words and terms for it, I'm not even going to venture down that road because people calling it all kinds of different things just deepens the confusion, in my opinion. I actually like his term of infinite all because that just makes sense. And I think we discussed the portions of I won't go into that any further. Far in a past time, lost in space-time, the children of light looked down on the world, seeing the children of men in their bondage, bound by the force that came from beyond. Now, he doesn't further mention what this force from beyond is, but some could speculate that it's the dark forces that they're battling. What I know of the history, I'm not sure when those dark forces arrived in relation to when we started being in physical bodies as a race on this planet. So I can't state definitively what that would mean in his meaning here. Knew they that only by freedom from bondage could man ever rise from the earth to the sun. Down they descended and created bodies, taking the semblance of men as their own. The masters of everything said after their forming, we are they who were formed from the space dust, partaking of life from the infinite all, living in the world as children of men, like and yet unlike the children of men. And that part I actually discussed last night, how they came from someplace else and they took human form. Then from a dwelling place far beneath the earth crust, and it says earth crust, not earth's crust, so it's not giving that possession of the crust to the earth, so I find that rather interesting there too. Blasted great spaces by their power, spaces apart from the children of men, surrounded them by forces and power, shielded from harm they, the halls of the dead. And an interesting point there, up to this point, he has mentioned no reason why the halls of the dead would be in danger and threat of harm. And it's threat of harm to the halls of the dead, not to the halls of life, the halls of the living. So that's another interesting point there. Side by side then placed they other spaces, filled them with life and with light from above, builded they then the halls of Amenti, that they might dwell eternally there, living with life to eternity's end. And really I have nothing more to add to that. 32 were there of the children, sons of light, who would come among men, seeking to free from the bondage of darkness those who were bound by the force from beyond. And mentions again this force that came from somewhere, right? And like I said on the last one, we will discuss the dark forces later because he gets into more detail on them. At the same time, when he talks about that, I don't remember him talking about any contracts or anything like that that are forcing men to be in bondage. So maybe we can discuss that further when we get to that tablet. Deep in the halls of life grew a flower, flaming, expanding, driving backward the night. Placed in the center a ray of great potence, life-giving, light-giving. And we've already mentioned that's the flower of, filling with power all who come near it. Placed they around it thrones, 32, places for each of the children of light, placed so that they were bathed in the radiance, filled with the life from the eternal light. And that one there's a little curious to me too. So they give Thoth, namely, but they have given others free rein to come down to the halls of Amenti to renew their bodies so that they also will have eternal life. Where do they sit? If there are only 32 of the children of light, and they only make 32 thrones, I guess they sit on the floor? There, time after time, placed they their first created bodies, so that they might be filled with the spirit of life. And this is where it talks about the time frame. 100 years out of each 1,000 must the life-giving light flame forth on their bodies, quickening, awakening the spirit of life. Okay, so what was it? Wasn't it 1,000 times that Thoth descended down? So for every 1,000, he must be down there for 100. So that means, yeah, he's many thousands of years old. There in the cycle, from eon to eon, sit the great masters, living a life not known among men. There in the halls of life they lie sleeping. Free flows their soul through the bodies of men. Time after time, while their bodies lie sleeping, incarnate they in the bodies of men, teaching and guiding onward and upward, out of the darkness into the light. And I've actually had a conversation, sort of a conversation, with somebody from the other side who stated they do actually have bodies that they keep for if they want to use one of those, but they can easily incarnate in a different body than the one that they're attached to. I guess it's a similar concept to possession, but they aren't taking something that belongs to somebody else. There in the hall of life, filled with their wisdom, known not to the races of men, living forever neath the cold fire of life, sit the children of light. Times there are when they awaken, come from the depths to be lights among men, infinite they among finite men. Now I'm also curious on that one. If Thoth was considered a man, the children of men at the time, and he was a giant. They descended during the Atlantean times, so do they have giant bodies? Or do they have little man bodies like us? Because it did say they put their first bodies there. So those were definitely giants. But have they since made our size bodies? I'd wager a yes, but I don't remember it mentioning any secondary or tertiary bodies that they created. But I would wager that they have done so. He who by progress has grown from the darkness, lifted himself from night into the light. Free is he made of the halls of Amenti, free of the flower of life, of light and of life. Guided he then by wisdom and knowledge, passes from men to the master of life. There he may dwell as one of the masters, free from the bonds of the darkness of night. Again, he can go down there, he can use the flower. Where does he sit? Did they make more thrones? Or did they just put in little tiny chairs for the new people? Just a curiosity. Seated within the flower of radiance sit 7 lords from the space-times above us, helping and guiding through infinite wisdom, the pathway through time of the children of men. Mighty and strange they, veiled with their power, silent, all-knowing, drawing the life force. Different, yet one with the children of men. I, different, and yet one with the children of light. So basically, the 7 lords of time space are not one of the children of light either. So again, we got 32 thrones, add in 7 more. Interesting. I kind of like the next passage. Custodians and watchers of the force of man's bondage, ready to loose when the light has been reached. First and most mighty sit the veiled presence, Lord of lords, the infinite 9, over the others from each cosmic cycle, weighing and watching the progress of men. Under he sit the Lord of the cycles, lords of the cycles. So the Lord of Lords is called the Infinite 9. 9 is the number of creation, the union of male and female, masculine and feminine. Yeah, I still have a lot to learn on sacred geometry, but I remember some of it, though I haven't gotten far enough into the next numbers. 3, which is actually the triangle, and it is the strongest of the shapes. 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8. Here they leave off 9. And I don't remember if it was in this one or a later tablet. When they do add 9, it's 8-9. And when they put in the name, it's the name of 8 hyphen the name of 9. And I find it interesting they start off at number 3 instead of number 1. So 1 is the number of unity. So they start off their numbers instead of with unity as a triad. And if you've been looking at anything, you know the triad is literally everywhere. Just everywhere. Each with his mission, each with his powers, guiding, directing the destiny of man. There sit they, mighty and potent, free of all time and space, not of this world they, yet akin to it. Elder brothers they of the children of men. Elder brothers is capitalized the first word of each. That sounds more like an organization rather than a blood relationship. Kind of like how in a church you have the people and then you have the elders. And then, of course, you have the Lord of Nine as the top dude. Interesting how that works out. Elder brothers they of the children of men, judging and weighing, they with their wisdom, watching the progress of light among men. And yes, I do believe that there are a lot of things that are in the church that were modeled after these tablets after I have finished reading them all. I can see some areas that were pulled out of these tablets. That's just one of them. There before them was I, led by the dweller, watched him blend with one from above. Then from he came forth a voice, saying, Thou art great art thou, Toth, among children of men. Free henceforth of the halls of Amenti, master of life among children of men. Taste not of death, except as thou will it. Basically, he's not going to die until he wants to. Drink thou of life to eternity's end. Henceforth forever is life, thine for the taking. Henceforth is death at the call of thy hand. Dwell here or leave here when thou desireth. Free is Amenti to the Son of Man. Now, whenever he uses the word son, it's always the S-U-N, it's not the S-O-N. And generally when they refer to mankind, they say men. In this case, they call him Son of Man because they're talking about him individually. Take thou up life in what form thou desireth. Child of the light that has grown among men. Choose thou thy work, for all souls must labor, never to be free from the pathway of light. One step thou hast gained on the long pathway upward. Infinite now is the mountain of light. Each step thou taketh but heightens the mountain. All of thy progress but lengthens the goal. And this is kind of, I guess, the irritant of even humankind. You know, we struggle and we toil and we conquer, and there's always another obstacle right after the one we just conquered. We may get a small break here and there, but you know, that causes a lot of frustration among us. Based on this, that never ends. But we all know life is a journey. We're all here to learn, and we never stop learning. When you stop learning is when life no longer has purpose. And I think that's the point, to keep learning so that life does have a purpose. Approach ye ever the infinite wisdom, ever before thee recedes the goal. Free are ye made now of the halls of Amenti, to walk hand in hand with the lords of the world, one in one purpose working together, bringers of light to the children of men. Then from, and I don't know if this is a typo or if this was here intentionally, but it said hid throne instead of his throne, because hid doesn't actually make sense in this passage. Then from hid throne came one of the masters, taking my hand and leading me onward. Through all of the halls of the deep hidden land, led he me through the halls of Amenti. See, that's why I think it's a typo and it's supposed to be his. Showing the mysteries that are known not to man. Through the dark passage downward he led me, into the hall where sits the dark death. Again, one. The first tablet said plural. There was an S at the end. To me, based on this, it's probably another typo, but it's okay. As a writer, it's very easy to have typos. Vast as space lay the great hall before me, walled by darkness, yet filled with light. Before me arose a great throne of darkness. Veiled on it, seated, a figure of night. Again, singular. Darker than darkness sat the great figure. Dark were the darkness, not of the night. If you have ever seen an entity in the night, you definitely understand what that means. Because there's always some form of light, even if it's a dim light. And the darker than darkness, yeah, you see it. Before it then paused the Master, speaking the word that brings about life, saying, O Master of darkness, guide of the way from life unto life, before thee I bring a son of the morning. Touch him not ever with the power of night. And this is what I was talking about when I did the first tablet. Generally, night in here means death. You have left your body and you're in limbo until you get another one. Call not his flame to the darkness of night. Know him and see him, one of our brothers, lifted from darkness into the light. Release thou his flame from its bondage. Free let it flame through the darkness of night. Basically, well, it's going to explain it here in the next couple of paragraphs, but he's saying in your bag of people who will be dying, release this soul from that bag so that you don't accidentally keep him on the death list. Raise then the hand of the figure. Forth came a flame that grew clear and bright, rolled back swiftly the curtain of darkness, unveiled the hall from the darkness of night. Then grew in the great space before me flame after flame from the veil of the night. Uncounted millions leapt they before me, from flaming forth as flowers of fire. Others there were that shed a dim radiance, glowing but faintly from out of the night. Some there were that faded swiftly, others that grew from a small spark of light, each surrounded by its dim veil of darkness, yet flaming with light that could never be quenched, coming and going like fireflies in springtime. Filled they the space with light and with life. Basically, he was all the souls that are currently embodied, right? From the baby that's probably the brightest to the old that's probably the dimmest. The death just showed Toph, these are the living. But also, what's your definition of living once you understand this stuff? Are you really living when you're in a body? It really is a restraint when you really think about it. Then spoke a voice, mighty and solemn, saying, These are lights that are souls among men, growing and fading, existing forever, changing yet living, through death into life. When they have bloomed into flower, reached the zenith of growth in their life, swiftly then send I my veil of darkness, shrouding and changing to new forms of life, steadily upward throughout the ages, growing, expanding into yet greater flame, lighting the darkness with yet greater power, quenched yet unquenched by the veil of the night. So grows the soul of man ever upward, quenched yet unquenched by the darkness of night. Now I do find that part rather curious and actually pretty hopeful when you really think about it, because he's saying that the souls of man grow ever upward. So in Atlantis, the souls of men were growing ever downward, right? When you think about what he was saying in that first tablet, they kept falling lower and lower and lower and lower. Hence, the fall of Atlantis had to happen. And at this point, when he, well, actually, he was granted freedom of Amenti while he was still in Atlantis. So that makes that passage even more curious. If the soul of man grows ever upward, yet it was falling during the days of Atlantis, and he went down there during Atlantis. Makes me wonder if they fall some while they're embodied because of what they're experiencing as part of society, and then when they lose their body and they go back to not being in a body, they go, well, I learned this, and it lifts their soul up some more. Yeah, that's probably it, because embodied man isn't exactly light at this point. It's getting better. It's getting better. But I, death, come, and yet I remain not. For life eternal exists in the all, only an obstacle I in the pathway, quick to be conquered by the infinite light. Awaken, O flame that burns ever inward, flame forth and conquer the veil of night. And that was him calling the soul of Thoth to come forward so that he can set that soul aside, so he knows that that soul is not going to be on the death list. Then, in the midst of the flames in the darkness, grew there one that drove forth the night, flaming, expanding, ever brighter, until at last was nothing but light. Then spoke my guide, the voice of the Master. See your own soul as it grows in the light, free now forever from the Lord of the night. I do kind of wonder on that one, though, because he doesn't get very specific on that one. Is there, like, in the center of the room, all the ones that are going to die, and they just kind of put the ones that aren't going to die over in the corner? Hang them up on a wall? Yeah, how organized are they down there? They got to be organized in some way, but I'm curious. Forward he led me through many great spaces, filled with the mysteries of the children of light, mysteries that man may never yet know of, until he, too, is a son of the light. Backward then he led me. Hi. Come on. Sorry, my cat needs to be in the blanket. This is Loki. There we go. No better? And yes, he's picky on what blanket I use, too. Okay. Backward then he led me into the hall of the light, or into the light of the hall of the light. Knelt I then before the great masters, lords of all from the cycles above. And basically just returned back to the starting point. Okay, now he doesn't want to be in the blanket. Spoke he then with words of great power, saying, Thou hast been made free of the halls of Amenti. Choose thou thy work among the children of men. At least he gets to choose what job he does for the rest of his life, huh? Then spoke I, O great Master, let me be a teacher of men, leading them onward and upward, until they too are lights among men, freed from the veil of the night that surrounds them, flaming with light that shall shine among men. Basically, he wants to teach his wisdom to men, which has basically been what he's been saying the whole time, and he continues to say that the whole time. It's very, very clear he wants to teach his wisdom to help men rise in the light. Upward then led me the dweller. Dwelt I again among children of men, teaching and showing some of my wisdom. Son of the light, a fire among men. Now again I tread the path downward, seeking the light in the darkness of men. Hold ye and keep ye, preserve my record. Guide shall it be to the children of men. And we talked about that one last night too, of the consequences of not preserving his records. Though I don't think the consequences were as bad as some might want to say they were, because he just said the consequences would be to return to living in a cave. Better than being burnt in a fire. But I guess once you've been lifted up as high as Egypt was at that time, being forced to go back to living in a cave would seem pretty devastating. But that is the end of tablet number 2. Not too much to add because I talked so much on the first tablet. So I didn't have anything in addition to the previous comments on that one. But thank you for watching. Thank you for the patience of me dealing with my cat. This isn't the first time Loki has been messing around while I'm recording. But thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.